Violent crime dropped by 54% in 1 year. They built it in El Paso, it's fine. They built it in Yuma, they went from 138,000 arrests in 1 year to 3,800 the next. And we get a representative who defunded ours. She joined with 6 others and defunded ours. That's what we got here. And so as a result, now we have a gigantic funnel of drugs and violence coming right through southern Arizona. 50% of the drugs that come into the United States come through southern Arizona. I wonder why we have a serious border problem down there. Get the Border Patrol agents, the helicopters and helicopter pilots they need, get them down there on that fence where they want to be, and we can secure our border. We do need employer sanctions, we just need to enforce the laws we have. It's one of these things, we don't need all these new immigration laws, although SB 1070 was fantastic and I support it, Paul Giffords opposes it. We just need to enforce the ones we currently have. We have laws that are fine. The I-9s and the E-Verify system, these will work just fine. And cut off any taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal immigrants. It has to stop. And we need, quite frankly, we need either the marshals or somebody to take a peek in the emergency rooms every now and then. Because I have a friend on Border Patrol here. He went to see his wife well, not his wife, his buddy's wife one night, had just had a baby. He was going to check on her. He had just got off work. He walks in, he's still in his Border Patrol uniform, over 40 people in the emergency room. He walks back, he sees her, comes back out, he said it wasn't more than 2 minutes later, there wasn't a single soul in there. They all got up and left. The nurses were asking her if he'd come back every night. What are we doing? These are common sense things right now. They estimate that over 40% of the health care that's received for free, meaning we pay for it, is received by illegal immigrants. But hey, the border's as safe as it's ever been. And all we have are politicians that act like they can't solve the problem. People solve their border problem all over the world. We have the wealthiest country in the world, and our guys act helpless.
That's because none of them have any common sense.
Well, they should.
It's either that or they're over-educated idiots and think they're smarter than everybody else.
They say we're ranked number 2 in poverty. Well, if you let a lot of people in that are not properly trained or not properly documented, my wife's got a alien registration card. She's had one for quite a while. You let people in the country that aren't trained, that aren't part of the system, that don't have Social Security numbers, and they depress wages.
Well, it's because we're reporting poverty. We're reporting poverty and crime. Mexico is building a fence on their southern border and pushing their crime and poverty into our lands. They print out cartoons that tell people how to cross over illegally. That's why their president came up to our House of Representatives and lectured us about a law that we passed in Arizona. What? Isn't there at least any guts left in Washington, D.C.? How does that man get away with that? You know what? If you don't like it, go back to Mexico. Mr. President, he's not our president. Why are we being talked down to by the president of Mexico? That should never happen, and he gets a standing ovation. He got applauded. Man, there was a time in this country he would have been escorted out of the House floor and sent back.
And our president stood next to him.
Oh, of course he did.
And then we later find out from Senator Kyle that the reason he doesn't want a secured border is because he wants to pass his legislation first.
Oh, what a shock.
So is our well-being at the core of this, or is it a political thing like everything else? And I'm sick and tired of all the decisions being made based on political to get my agenda through. Disraeli was a philosopher who said, less talking and more thinking. I am tired of the speeches. I don't want my president going around campaigning all the time. That's on our dime.
We don't have to sugarcoat this anymore. The President of the United States is not like this country. Let's just be honest about it. Let's be honest about who his mentors were when he was younger. He sat there in that church. He sat there in that church with a reverend who married he and his wife, baptized his kids, and the guy sat and trashed on this country. And then we have a president that goes over to Egypt who would be speaking German were it not for the blood of American troops, and he apologizes for this country. I'm tired of the world apology tours. I want to hear our president, because he's our president, talk about how magnificent we are. Talk about how great the American people are. Talk about how great our system are. And we never hear that from this president. We're always talked down to, always demeaned. There's always another industry that he can run better, even though he's never run a lemonade stand. He's never done anything. This president is an absolute disaster. Are you recording that, liberals? A disaster. He's the worst president in the history of the United States of America. There's not even any question about it, and I count the days until November 2012.
are two areas of medicine that have not increased in cost, but in fact have gone down. LASIK surgery is one of them, or increase to the healthcare situation as opposed to government.
Well, beyond tort reform, which we do need in this country, we need to expand and be able to purchase insurance across state lines. It is a no-brainer. We don't need insurance companies competing with the government, we need them competing with each other. Whenever private companies compete with each other, we win, because the quality goes up and the costs go down. We need the expansion of these tax-free healthcare savings accounts that give you the power of your own dollar, and really more than anything else, we need to get back to the individual ownership of health insurance and get government regulations off of it. Only 8% of the country currently own their own insurance. You should have the freedom. Why am I covered for pregnancy? Don't think that's right around the corner anytime soon. So I think that we can customize our own plans. We need to have ownership of our own plans. You should be able to go on geico.com and pick what you want to be covered for and what you do not. We are not gerbils that need to be led around by the federal government. We can handle our own. These oppressive regulations, probably nobody in here has to complain about their car insurance. And everybody has to complain about their health insurance, most likely. That's because the government heavily regulates the health insurance industry. And it's not an accident that the three most heavily regulated industries in this country were the three that failed. The auto, the energy, and the housing sector. They talk about it was the free market that did this, the free market did that. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those government-run places, own 97% of the bad debt in this country right now. The government did this. It wasn't big business or even big oil or any of the other big words they use to disguise their anti-free market agenda.
Big bargain.
Yeah. It's big government that did this to us, that's what happened.
I remember